William, this video is for you. Let's talk about how to find the domain of a function. So this video is just going to be an introduction. I will show you examples in other videos. Let's focus on what does the word domain mean. So let me write it down for you. Domain means that we are trying to find all the possible inputs of a function, and because for the function the input is usually x, so let me write this down. Domain is all the possible x values, and there are three situations that we have to remember. Then there are three conditions we have to satisfy. Okay, the first one is that when we have a rational function, and that means we have a fraction. So let me write down the top for the numerator over the bottom for the denominator. And we know when we have a fraction, the bottom cannot be what? The bottom cannot be 0, right? We cannot have 5 over 0. That will be undefined, right? So when we see a fraction, especially when you have the x in the bottom, this is what we have to make sure, and you should remember to write this down as well when you are doing the work. Write this down when you are trying to find domain. You always should write down, make sure this, make sure that. This will help you remember things better. When you have a fraction, you have to make sure the bottom cannot be 0, okay? And when you have an x in the bottom, you will set up this right here so you can solve for the x. The next situation is when we have the square root and when we have the x inside of the square root. And let's just focus on the square root first. When we have the square root, can we have square root of 4? Yes, that's 2. Can we have square root of 1 over 9? Yes, that's 1/3. Can we have square root of 0? Yes, that's 0. But can we have square root of -7? No. Can we have square root of -16? No. Right? So right here, when we have the square root, we have to make sure the inside has to be a positive value, or maybe 0 is okay as well. So let me write this down here. We have to make sure the inside of the square root, it has to be bigger than or equal to 0. When we have a negative inside of the square root, that will give us imaginary number, and that's not allowed when we are talking about a function. Okay? And in fact, this applies to not just the square root. When we have the square root right here, the index here is a 2, right? But as I said, this idea applies to any even roots. Okay, and let me do a quick example right here.
When we have square root of 0, this is okay, this is just 0. But when we have square root of -16, this is not good, this is imaginary. So we cross that out, it's no good, we cannot evaluate this. And when you have the fourth root of -16, this is also not good. And you see 4 is an even index. And the same applies to when you have a 6 or an 8 for the index. Any even root, you have to make sure the inside has to be greater than or equal to 0. Negative numbers are not allowed. Well, what if I have a string instead, right here for the index? The third root, okay, the cube root. Let's say when we have the cube root of -125. Is this okay, or is this no good either? This is actually okay. This will give you -5, because -5 times -5 times -5 gives you exactly -125. So this is actually good. How about when we have the 5? The fifth root of -32. Is this doable? Well, yes. The answer to this is -2, because -2 to the 5th power gives you -32.
So the point right here is that even root, the inside has to be greater than or equal to 0. This is what you have to remember as well. The third situation is when we have a logarithm function. So log, and let me just indicate a b right here for any good base. When we have log of any base of anything inside of the log function, this is kind of similar to the square root or any even root situation. But then for logs, we cannot have log of 0. Log of any base of 0 right here, this is bad. You can use a calculator to verify, but this is undefined. You will get a math error on the calculator. How about can we do log of base, any base of 1? Yes, right here, this answer to this is 0. Anyways, when we have the log functions, we have to make sure the inside we cannot have negative numbers. and we cannot have 0 neither, so we have to make sure the inside is greater than 0. Okay, and let me just write down an example right here. When we have log, let's say base 2 of negative 32 like this, this right here is bad because you have the negative number inside. That's bad. Anyways, these are the 3 main conditions that we have to remember for these 3 situations. Other than these 3, the domain of those functions are just all real numbers. So you have to remember these 3 situations. These are the 3 conditions that go with it. Sometimes the question requires just use one of these idea, but sometimes you may have to combine 2 or more of these conditions together in order to find the domain of the function. And I will show you example in the next video.
That's it.